The last breath on Rue des Archives, Paris, wears its crimes best at night. It was near midnight when Auguste Dupin extinguished the final lamp in our sitting room and declared, with that peculiar certainty which never announced itself as such, that a man had just been murdered 3 streets away. I protested. There had been no cry, no alarm, no disturbance to justify the claim. Dupin merely smiled. Murders, he said, are not loud events. They are decisive ones. Within the hour, a carriage bore us through the damp arteries of the Marais to a narrow townhouse on the Rue des Archives, its windows dark, its door ajar in a manner both careless and intentional. The police had already arrived. Their faces told the story before their mouths dared. A man lay dead inside. Chapter 1. The victim was Henry Valmont, a well-known dealer in rare manuscripts, respected publicly, resented privately, and feared by more than a few. He lay sprawled at the foot of his study desk, one hand clenched against his chest, the other extended as though grasping for a mercy that had declined the invitation. The physician had spoken already. Sudden cardiac failure. A convenient death, Dupin murmured. No weapon was found, no sign of forced entry. The windows were locked from within. The servants swore Valmont had dismissed them early and expected no visitors. Yet Dupin did not look at the body first. He examined the room. The fire had been recently stirred. A single wineglass sat upon the desk, half empty. The decanter beside it was uncorked, but untouched. Papers lay scattered, though not rifled. This was no theft interrupted. This was something else. Dupin knelt beside the corpse at last, and gently pried open Valmont's clenched hand. Inside was a scrap of paper, torn hastily, bearing 3 words written in a trembling script. "You promised silence." Dupin straightened slowly. "This man," he said, "was murdered by someone he trusted enough to let inside, and feared enough to accuse with his dying breath." Chapter 2. The police dismissed the note as melodrama. Valmont was a man of quarrels. Enemies came as easily to him as clients. But Dupin was already elsewhere, mentally reconstructing the evening with the patience of a spider. He questioned the servants again, this time listening not to what they said, but to how carefully they said it. Valmont had received 3 visitors in recent weeks. A former business partner ruined by a failed deal, a collector denied a valuable acquisition, and Lucien Merck, a quiet scholar who authenticated manuscripts for Valmont, and whose reputation Valmont now controlled entirely. Dupin's eyes lingered on the last name. "A man whose career rests on another's discretion," he observed. "That is not partnership, that is captivity." Back in the study, Dupin lifted the wineglass and inhaled faintly. "Bitter almond," he said. The physician scoffed. "Poison would have left traces." Dupin nodded. "If it had entered the body as poison." Chapter 3. The answer revealed itself not in chemistry but in habit. Dupin requested Valmont's personal effects and found among them a small brass snuff box, ornate, polished, clearly handled often. Inside, however, there was no snuff, only a fine pale powder pressed into the corners. "Valmont did not take snuff," Dupin said. "He took comfort." Lucien Merck was summoned the next morning. He arrived pale, precise, and visibly exhausted, like a man who had not slept since something irreversible had occurred. Dupin spoke gently, almost kindly. "You were here last night," he said. Merck denied it. Dupin nodded. "Naturally, you were also the only man who knew Valmont's heart condition. You authenticated the physician's letter yourself." Silence. Dupin continued. "The powder in the snuff box was digitalis, refined to act slowly when absorbed through mucous membranes. A habitual gesture, a delayed effect, no immediate suspicion." Merck's hands began to tremble. "You prepared it weeks ago," Dupin went on, voice calm as a priestess. "You waited, and last night you came not to argue but to listen." Chapter 4. The truth broke not with confession but collapse. Valmont had threatened to expose Merck's early forgery, a youthful error that would destroy him utterly. Merck begged for silence. Valmont demanded obedience. The note in Valmont's hand was written after he felt the first tightening in his chest. He knew, Dupin said later, as the police led Merck away. Too late, but clearly. As we stepped back into the Paris morning, I asked the question that lingered like smoke. What betrayed him in the end? Dupin glanced once more at the darkened house. He underestimated something very simple, he replied. The human capacity to prepare for murder and the equally human inability to live with it afterward. The city resumed its breath. Carriages passed, shops opened. Another murder folded neatly into the fabric of Paris. But I knew, because Dupin had shown me, that death does not always arrive violently. Sometimes it comes politely and sits down with you,